Hello and welcome. Just a quick video today about Hexblades and Hexadins and how it all works within the 5.5e environment because a viewer asked. Shout out to at Nagibraza7357. And don't worry, the handguns and pistols video is coming soon. So, in vanilla Baldur's Gate 3, the classic Hexadin, usually one Hexblade with 11 Vengeance Paladin, is one of the strongest builds in the game. That front-loaded single Hexblade level gave your Paladin charisma-based attacks, increased crit chance, self-healing on kills, and a strong ranged option if you happen to choose Eldritch Blast as one of your cantrips. Trying to duplicate that exact build in 5.5 mod takes a little bit of adaptation, so let's break down your three best options. So, first up, the exact 1 Hexblade and 11 Vengeance Paladin cannot be duplicated 1-to-1 in 5.5e, mainly because when subclasses receive their features, are now standardized across all classes to occur at level 3. It was only possible in vanilla because warlocks got most of their stuff at level 1. However, a 1 warlock and 11 vengeance build, the Lockadin rather than the Hexadin, is still very possible and still ridiculously strong. A quick tip on your starting class. If you start level 1 as a paladin on the Nordloid, you'll gain heavy armor proficiency. If you start as a warlock, you'll get wisdom saving throw proficiency instead. Pick whichever one fits your playstyle best. Now, with that single level in warlock, you get one invocation. Select Pact of the Blade. This unlocks Bind Pact Weapon, which is a slightly lighter version of the Hexblade's Bind Hexed weapon, because it doesn't apply Hexblade's curse for free on a hit. Other than that, it functions identically. It scales your attack and damage rolls off charisma rather than strength and or dexterity. And in 5.5e, it allows you to swap your weapons damage across 4 different types, including radiant and psychic. It plays almost exactly the same as its vanilla counterpart. You don't crit quite as often since you're lacking the reduce the number you need to roll a crit by 1 feature of Hexblade's Curse, but you now have the ability to force radiant or psychic damage, making this build an absolute monster when paired with gear sets like the Radiant Orb sets, the Reverb sets, or Psychic Gear sets. Still very strong and still very playable. If you want a true multi-class Hexadin, there are a few options. But today we're focusing on the most balanced split, literally, 6 Hexblade and 6 Paladin. I haven't specified Vengeance subclass because a new subclass for Paladin, the Genie, that is in 5.5 mod actually pairs ridiculously well with the Warlock. Go ahead and try it. This build gives you Counterspell from Hexblade alongside Aura of Protection and extra attack from the 6 levels of Paladin. Depending on which Paladin subclass you pick, you obviously get other stuff, but Aura of Protection and extra attack is a given for all Paladins of this level. Because Paladin supplies you with your extra attack, you don't need to take the Thirsting Blade invocation from Warlock, freeing up your build flexibility. This makes this build pretty good for a Tab or Dirge because it allows you to pick those non-combatant invocations that makes your character a little bit more playable with the roleplay environment of BG3. As well as, under the right conditions, spending your action on an attack cantrip can actually outperform taking, taking two normal attacks with this build. In 5.5e, Agonizing Blast adds your Charisma modifier to all Warlock cantrips. This includes the Blade cantrips, like Booming Blade, Green Flame Blade, and Vengeful Blade. It no longer just applies to Eldritch Blast. Quick side note though, 5.5 Emod does not use Larian's house rule that they implemented, I believe, in patch 7 or patch 8, not too sure, that allowed casting Booming Blade and making an extra weapon attack on the same turn unless you are an Eldritch Knight with War Magic. So if you're used to that mechanic in vanilla, just bear in mind that that can no longer works for a Hexblade. So, Agonizing Blast works for all cantrips now. Combine those Agonizing Blast boosted cantrips with Alfira's Potent Robe from Act 2, and your damage output starts to skyrocket. You Potent Robe just adds Charisma modifier again. What's the big deal? The big deal is in BG3 5.5 mod, the game treats Green Flame Blade. It's a melee that is a melee cantrip. It's not in vanilla, where you attack a primary target for weapon and fire damage. And then the fire damage jumps to a secondary target that is close by. So, Green Flame Blade is treated similarly to Eldritch Blast. It registers the weapon attack as one attack, i.e., one ray from Eldritch Blast, and the secondary fire damage as another attack, a second ray from Eldritch Blast. Like the separate rays, it counts as two separate attacks. Because both count as separate attacks and separate cantrip damage sources, Agonizing Blast and Gregarious Caster from Potent Robe proc on both. Alright? And if you have Hex running, Hex procs on both damage sources as well. Here is the battle summary that shows that proof. As you can see, Agonizing Blast gets added on weapon damage and on the fire damage, and Gregarious Caster is added again on weapon damage and the fire damage on both the primary and secondary targets. Hex, as you see, gets added twice on the primary target. And just as a quick example, if you were using a greatsword in Act 3 and you used Green Flame Blade at level 12 and you picked Agonizing Blast Invocation and were wearing the Potent Robe and literally nothing else, this is what that looks like. On your first target, you get your plus 2d6 from your greatsword. You add your Charisma, because it's a bind hex weapon. You add your Charisma again from Agonizing Blast. You add your Charisma again from Gregarious Caster from Potent Robe. Then comes the fire damage. That's plus 2d8 fire damage, plus your Charisma from Agonizing Blast, plus your Charisma again from Gregarious Caster and from the Potent Robe. On the second target, you are dealing 2d8 fire damage, plus Charisma modifier from Agonizing Blast, plus your Charisma modifier again from Gregarious Caster. If you can manage to get your Charisma modifier up to Charisma to 24, the highest value you can get in the game without exploits, you get a modifier of plus 7. If you use that calculation that I've just given you, that's 49 damage just from your Charisma modifier alone. You haven't, that's not rolling any dice, just Charisma mods alone. And yes, you can still Divine Smite on top of that if you want. Divine Smite will only work on your primary target though, so let's not get carried away. And finally, we have the Pure 12 Hexblade. I'm giving this because a lot of people like the Hexadin builds for the ability that it provides you. But arguably, the pure Hexblade actually is able to do all of the things the old Hexadin from Vanilla could. So I believe it is arguably the most powerful of the bunch, and I will stand by my claim that Warlocks are one of, if not the best overall class in 5.5e, since Sorcerers can't spam 4 fireballs a turn now. You get immense utility, charisma for dialogue and vendor discounts, medium armor proficiency for the best armors, which is the armor of agility in Act 3, plus martial weapon and shield proficiency, and Eldritch Blast, the best offensive ranged option cantrip. On top of all of that, a level 12 pure Hexblade gets 3 weapon attacks per action via the Devouring Blade invocation, 9 times level 5 smites per long rest, 3 spell slots, refreshing on every short rest, and you get the you're using Eldritch Smites rather than Divine Smites via the Eldritch Smite invocation. Free damage type swapping and free application of Hexblade's Curse via Bind Hexed Weapon, and extra damage and heal on hit from Life Drinker invocation. Because with this build, you actually have 3 attacks, it's actually better for you to focus on raw melee swings and stacking damage rider dice as opposed to the cantrip spamming that you did in the previous build. For example, equipping the Everburn Blade from the Nautiloid, Act 1, actually tutorial weapon, pretty okay. That gives you an extra 1d4 damage. Casting Hex gives you an extra 1d6 necrotic. Wearing the Strange Conduit ring while concentrating on Hex gives you an extra 1d4 psychic. So putting those 3 all together means hitting all 3 of your attacks deals roughly the following, because I haven't included modifiers because that can change. 6d6 slashing, necrotic, psychic, or radiant damage from your greatsword, 3d4 fire damage, again from the Everburn Blade, extra fire damage, 3d6 necrotic, psychic, or radiant from Life Drinker, plus 12 flat damage from Hexblade Curse, the proficiency damage, 3d6 necrotic from Hex, and 3d4 psychic damage from Strange Conduit Ring. That is higher than a 6th level fireball. The number of d6s alone make the damage equivalent to a 7th level fireball, and that's without even factoring in the level 5 Eldritch Smite for an extra 68 force damage once per turn. And all of those calculations are based off normal hits. You make this build a crit fishing build, and wow. I will not lie, you do miss something from the Paladin though. Mainly Aura of Protection and to a lesser extent heavy armor proficiency. But if you want a pure offensive melee powerhouse, you can't go wrong with 12 Hexblade. And that's it. At Nagi Braza, 7th Nagi Breza. I hope I'm saying that right. At Nagi Breza 7357. I hope you found that helpful. And as for everyone else, which of these builds are you thinking of playing on? Let me know, and drop a like if this helped answer any questions. And yeah, I am working on the handgun and revolver video. Quit your nagging. As always, thanks for watching. As Jahira says,
Slarning shape changers! Enough!
so what I haven't mentioned, I realized on editing, is the Find Steed spell that the Paladin gets in 5.5. Basically, this summons on console a cow for you to mount. Um, I'm assuming a cow because I don't believe there are any horse animations within the game, so they had to use the closest thing. Once you cast the spell, you need a flat land surface to cast it. Somewhere near you, a cow will appear. Then you will have to go to your action wheel, and a new button will appear. It's this button right here. You have to press that, and then you will press on your cow. Once you press on your cow will disappear and your movement should increase dramatically. I think it's about a 66% increase on your movement speed. For us metric users, that is an extra 6 meters on your speed. You're going from 9 to 15. And for the Americans, you go from 30 to 50, an increase of 20 feet. And yeah, because you are a paladin, you aren't actually as vulnerable as the spell suggests. Because you have aura of protection, you're not going to fail that saving throw. That's DC to if you take damage. I believe you have to succeed an athletics check in order to not fall off your mount and become prone. But if you are worried about that, just, add a bit more to your saving throws. Cloak of Protection, Ring of Protection, and the Helm of Baldurin should get you past that DC, that minimum DC you need to hit every single time, and therefore you don't have to worry about it, and therefore you don't have to waste a feat on the mounted combatant feat, I believe it's called, in the feat list, which basically reduces the chance, actually negates the chance entirely of you falling off your mount. But yeah, have fun with that one. Cheers!